Is it live or is it memorized? I use that line every time I introduce Dan Berggren, and you all continue to laugh. You're so kind. I'm Rick Davis. I'm the Executive Director of the 1891 Fredonia Opera House, and tonight's program is being presented by the State University of New York at Fredonia Alumni Affairs Office. So on behalf of the Opera House and the Alumni Affairs Office, it's my pleasure to welcome you here to this evening's program, which is a benefit for the Berggren Excellence in Audio and Radio Scholarship. So thank you all this evening for your contribution toward that special scholarship. I'm sure Dan will talk a bit more about that. And thank you for being here. You know, there was something there and it just went right out. So thank you for being here. And let's please welcome to the stage Dan Berggren.
What will we do with the grape, boys? What will we do with the grape? Juice or jelly would be just fine. But oh, what we do with a good jug of wine, that's your part. Grandpa raised seedlings a good while ago. He planted them there on the hill. Then each year they grew, as all things do. And today they're growing there still. What will we do with the grape, boys? What will we do with the grape? Juice or jelly would be just fine. But oh, what we do with a good jug of wine. Trimming and tying, we all share the work. The family is out in the field, working together in good and bad weather. In autumn we share in the yield. What will we do with the grape, boys? What will we do with the grape? Juice or jelly would be just fine. But oh, what we do with a good jug of wine. Growing is done, harvest time's done. It seems we're in pretty good shape. But the weatherman said, act fast or you're dead, so hurry and bring in the grape. What will we do with the grape, boys? What will we do with the grape? Juice or jelly would be just fine. But oh, what we do with a good jug of wine. If Grandpa could see us, I'm sure he'd be pleased. I'm sure he'd be truly amazed. We owe him a debt for each drop of sweat and a toast to the vineyard he raised. What will we do with the grape, boys? What will we do with the grape? Juice or jelly would be just fine. But oh, what we do with a good jug of wine. One of my Fredonia songs. I was sitting with Dick and Carmen at the Unicorn Coffee House. Any of you ever go to the... Remember that? For about 30 years, the students ran the Unicorn Coffee House series. And folks from all over the country, sometimes from England, sometimes Stan Rogers from Canada would come down. And one night, Margaret MacArthur was singing these beautiful farm songs from Vermont, telling the history of life in Vermont. And she said in the middle of the concert, "Here I am in grape country and I don't know a single song about grapes." And I took that as a challenge and wrote it for her, and she started singing it in her programs. We became great friends, and a couple of my other songs she started sharing with folks. This song came out of the streets of Manhattan when I was visiting a former student. Dave Salamone was showing me what he was up to in his offices at HBO. And when I came out, it was one of those days, like 95 degrees and the humidity was 100%. and people are walking around in New York on the streets with this look in their eye like, get out of my way. And maybe they look like that all the time, but on this particular hot and humid day, it was brutal. And suddenly the skies opened up and it was pouring rain, and men in their suits and women in their dresses, everybody had a big smile on their face. They were like kids splashing in the puddles. The streets are full of people in the middle of downtown. The grass is hard, the air is hard to breathe, and the grass is turning brown. Suddenly folks are laughing in the rain that's pouring down, 'cause they just found their way back home. I thought I was lost 'cause I didn't have a map, but counting on my compass I avoided all the traps. Now I'm on the right path and I'm closing the gap, and I just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. When I'm feeling free, there's nowhere I'd rather be. I just found my way back home. I'm sitting by a spring, taking shelter from the sun, waiting in the shade 'cause it just hit 91, and deer flies outnumber me 900 to 1. But I just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. When I'm feeling free, there's nowhere I'd rather be. I just found my way back home. There's a boulder in the field that the glacier left behind. It's not going anywhere. It isn't so inclined. I consider where it's been, and I change my frame of mind, and I just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. When I'm feeling free, there's nowhere I'd rather be. I just found my way back home. Sometimes I find myself a long way from home. Another day, another night, traveling on my own. But when I think of you, then I'm not so alone. And I just found my way back home. Sing it with me. Just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. When I'm feeling free, there's nowhere I'd rather be. I just found my way back home. What a joy it is to sing with some friends. High voices, low voices, listen to the blend. There's another chorus coming, and it's just around the bend. And I just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. When I'm feeling free, there's nowhere I'd rather be. I just found my way back home. Just found my way back home. For you alumni. It's interesting to travel the state and see fall in its different stages. Like 2.5 weeks ago, it was peak color in the Adirondacks, and now as I was driving to Western New York, I got to see colors just starting to emerge. Maybe, I don't know when it'll be peak color here. Same thing in the spring, getting to see lilacs come out, all different, for a stretch throughout the spring. I wrote this song as I was driving from Fredonia to Great Camp Sagamore, where I've been doing programs for a number of years. And it was a beautiful fall day. Every turn in the road, another burst of color on that mountainside or in that field. And it was rather chilly. I was riding with the window down and the heat on my feet. And the aroma of all the decaying leaves, I swear, it gave me the feeling of being intoxicated. The sight and the smell. So by the time I reached Sagamore, I had this song in my head. While leaves turn yellow, red and gold, red and gold, red and gold, gather firewood for the cold. Take a drink of autumn, take a drink of autumn. The leaves return to earth below, earth below, earth below, and decompose so more can grow. Smell the season turning, smell the season turning. The pine are guardians of the green, of the green, of the green. They keep a promise in between, till winter turns to springtime, till winter turns to springtime. The crops are in, the barn is full, barn is full, barn is full. The cows are fat, thick is the wool. Each day is for Thanksgiving, each day is for Thanksgiving. We're in the balance, dark and light, dark and light, dark and light. The time for taking stock is right, and putting things in order, and putting things in order. A flock of geese is flying south, flying south, flying south. A whispered wish escapes my mouth. My heart is flying with them. My heart is flying with them. So 14 years ago, when I retired from teaching to do music full-time, I started the Excellence in Audio and Radio Scholarship, and right away a lot of alumni jumped in with donations. And in 2009, it was the first scholarship winner. There have been 10 since. Erica Wolfing, Keith Kropsky, Caitlin Skellett, Irina Horvat, Jason Patton, Megan Devine, Lexi Zicardi, Melissa Fuchs, Noah Machajewski, and Marcia Garcia. Would you give those 10 students, whether they're here or not, would you give them a hand? It's got a real easy chorus for you. I try not to write difficult choruses. I am on a journey, already out the door. Don't know where I'm going, but I'm ready to explore. There will be disappointment and answers I don't know. Yes, there will be trouble, but still I will grow. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek, I will find. With an open heart and an open mind, seek and I will find. Try that. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek, I will find. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek and I will find. I will sweat and labor and do what it takes. I will help my neighbor and learn from my mistakes. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek, I will find. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek and I will find. I am not a pilgrim searching for a sacred place. Each step along the journey can be filled with love and grace. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek, I will find. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek and I will find. Thought I had all the answers when I was in my youth. Now all I want are good questions that will lead me toward the truth. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek, I will find. With an open heart and an open mind, I will seek and I will find. I will seek and I will find. I will seek and I will find. So, since my daughter and son-in-law and two granddaughters live in California and we don't get to visit with them that often, my daughter often plays my CDs so that the 9-year-old and 4-year-old can hear Granddad and remind them. And the 4-year-old, when she heard me singing I Am Not a Pilgrim, she said to her mother, "No, you're Granddad." She was listening, she was paying attention. Here's a great song that comes from the British music hall tradition. Call it All Makes Work for the Working Man to Do, and that's your line. It's a Newton Street Irregular favorite. It was on a Monday morning when the gas man came to call. The gas tap wouldn't turn on, I wasn't getting gas at all. He tore out all the skirting boards to try and find the main. I had to call the carpenter to put them right again. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. It was on a Tuesday morning when the carpenter came round. He hammered and he chiseled and he says, "Look what I found. Your joists are full of dry rot, but I'll put them all to right." He nails right through a cable and out go all the lights. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. It was on a Wednesday morning when the electrician came. I don't know what he called me, but it wasn't quite my name. Well, he couldn't reach the fuse box without standing on a bin. His foot goes through the window, so I called the glazier in. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. It was on a Thursday morning when the glazier came along with blowtorch and putty and Mary Glazier's song. Well, he put another pane in, it took no time at all. I had to call the painter in to come and paint the wall. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. It was on a Friday morning when the painter made his start. With undercoat and overcoat he painted every part, every nook and every cranny. But I found when he had gone, he'd painted over the gas tap and I couldn't turn it on. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. On Saturday and Sunday they do no work at all. So it was on a Monday morning when the gas man came to call. Oh, it all makes work for the working man to do. Every once in a while, I get what I call an Adirondack commission. This is nothing formal, there's no paperwork to fill out. It's a phone call that says, Dan, do you know any songs about, and if you don't, could you write one? And once I got a phone call from the director of Great Camp Sagamore in the Adirondacks, and they were having a barn dedication. This historic barn that had been falling down, got some money from the state preservation, and they were going to have a big ceremony, ribbon cutting, and people from the state were going to come. And the director thought it'd be great if we had a song, which Dick and Carmen and Steve and Bill Smith and I sang on this occasion. But I had the two things I needed. One was a deadline, and the other was the topic. And I'm driving along in Chautauqua County, and I suddenly see this beautiful old barn, or I could see that it once was beautiful. It had that chew mail pouch tobacco painted on the side, weeds crawling up, half the roof was gone, the other half was rusted. A really sad shape, but what I noticed were the beams were still plumb and square. It had been built by a craftsman, and that was the trigger. I pulled over to the side of the road and just started scribbling on a piece of paper all the things about the barns on the farm where I grew up. And every project with my dad started in the barn with a scrap of paper over at the workbench. All right, here's what we're going to do, here's what we need. And then at the end of the day, we came back, put the tools away, and washed up. So I immediately had the barns on the farm where I grew up. And it ended up being not so much about barns, but about the big beams in our lives. The big beams who helped restore this opera house, the big beams who contribute and make things happen, our elders, our ancestors, our parents. Driving down a back road, chew mail pouch caught my eye. Faded paint on the side of the barn, buried in weeds grown high. Buildings going up all over, but there's no more need for this one. And that weathered wood has a tale to tell, but there's no one round here to listen to those big beams, hand-hewn out of hemlock, holding tractors, plows, and livestock for the women and men who work so hard. Just like big beams, ones you can depend on to bear the load and send on the courage and the strength to be big beams. It reminded me of back home and the three barns side by side, the horse and the sheep and the hay barn, built with muscle and pride. When I worked for my dad in the summer, those dog days seemed so long, and I wondered what kept him going, what made my father so strong. Just like big beams, hand-hewn out of hemlock, holding tractors, plows, and livestock for the women and men who work so hard. Just like big beams, ones you can depend on to bear the load and send on the courage and the strength to be big beams. When we sat in the horse barn doorway, Dad told me stories and dreams, and that weathered man had a tale to tell. He'd been working since he was 16, but now we've both grown older. He's not as strong as he used to be. He said, "Where did all my strength go?" I told him, "You gave it to me. You gave me big beams, hand-hewn out of hemlock, holding tractors, plows, and livestock for the women and men who work so hard." Just like big beams, ones you can depend on to bear the load and send on the courage and the strength to be big names. Thank you. I invite you now to close your eyes and not go to sleep. Close your eyes and think back to all the kitchens you've ever been in. I believe the kitchen is the heart of the home, and it doesn't matter how big your house is, how small your house is, you have friends over, they seem to cluster to the kitchen. I know musicians love kitchens. Maybe it's the hard surfaces that make the music sound better, or maybe it's just close to the refrigerator. Sitting in your kitchen, coffee on the table, talking about the morning and singing a song. There's so much we have to do now, so we'd better get a move on, move on. Sitting in your kitchen, hands across the table, looking for some answers in each other's eyes. There's so much we have to find out, so we'd better get a move on, move on. Sitting in your kitchen, the cards are on the table, we're gambling for some high stakes, but nothing to lose. There's so much that we could win now, so we'd better get a move on, move on. Sitting in my kitchen, your letters on the table, telling what you're up to and how you are. Well, I've got a song to sing you, so I better get a move on, move on. Try it with me, sitting in your kitchen. Sitting in your kitchen, coffee on the table. Coffee on the table, talking about the morning, talking about the morning and singing a song. So much we have to do, so much we have to do now, so we'd better get a move on, move on. Move on. So as much as the barn was my dad's domain, kitchen was headquarters for my mother, and that's where I learned all my family history. At the kitchen table or at her elbow helping prepare a meal or put things away later. And you know, sometimes when you're a teenager, you get really good at rolling your eyes, especially when you hear the same story every Thanksgiving. And you wonder, why are these people telling the same stories every year? You know why. You know why now. Because if that's oral history, and if they didn't repeat it, you wouldn't know it now. or maybe you wish you'd paid attention or heard it a few more times so that you could have that piece of family history. There were folks who were known for their deeds, those who used only what they'd need, do unto others, performed as an art, living life with a generous heart. Where did they go when I wasn't listening? Where did they go when I was thinking of myself? Where did they go when I didn't pay attention? Where did those folks go? Where did they go? There were stories for each season of year, shared with loved ones, learned by ear, swelling the heart, engaging the brain, each one a link in the chain. Where did they go when I wasn't listening? Where did they go when I was thinking of myself? Where did they go when I didn't pay attention? Where did those stories go? Where did they go? There were songs sung by everyone. The old would teach them to the young, sung any time of the night or day, with rhythms of work and play. Where did they go when I wasn't listening? Where did they go when I was thinking of myself? Where did they go when I didn't pay attention? Where did those songs go? Where did they go? Maybe they were here all along, waiting for us to sing along. Every once in a while, I find a song and I think, man, I wish I'd written that. And that's when you learn. That's when you learn songs. When Stan Rogers came and performed at the Unicorn with his brother and a bass player, he sang some incredible songs that I thought, man, I wish I'd written that. And so you learn from people like Bill Staines, who's going to be here in a couple of weeks, and John Gorka and Stan Rogers and people like that, and you figure out, what are they doing that hooks me so and pulls me into that song, and then you try to tell your own story and use some of those. Well, I fell in love with this song, stumbled upon it accidentally on the internet and found out that the gentleman who wrote it, Tucker Zimmerman, was on a Fulbright scholarship when he was a young man, and this is during the Vietnam War, and he decided when his Fulbright was over that he was not coming back to the country. So he's lived in Europe all these years. And he wrote this song. It's a retelling of an ancient story called the Taoist Tale. You know, there's good and bad that happens to us all the time. Sometimes it's turned into a shaggy dog story. Well, a shaggy dog story is nothing more than a Taoist tale. Once upon a time, a farmer sent his son with a horse to graze upon the mountainside. He fell asleep, and when he woke, the horse was gone. He came back alone And the neighbors said, what bad luck. But the farmer said, how do you know? How do you know? Try it. How do you know? How do you know? The very next day, the farmer sent a son back to the mountain to seek his runaway. He found the horse and 7 other wild ones, took them all home, and the neighbors said, what good luck. But the farmer said, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? The very next day, the farmer sent a son to the wild horses that needed to be tamed. The first one he climbed on, threw him to the ground. It broke his arm, and the neighbors said, what bad luck. But the farmer said, how do you know? How do you know? How do you know? How do you know? The very next day, war was declared, and the army came through the countryside, looking for soldiers, but they couldn't take anyone with a broken arm. And the neighbors said, what good luck. But the farmer said, how do you know? 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 And as Dan Berggren likes to say, I'll do it anyway. And if you see a tear in my eye during this song, it's not because I'm emotionally moved. It's because I caught my mustache in the harmonica. It's about this time someone would have told 2 or 3 tuning jokes. Like, how can you tell if the stage is level? Drool is coming out of both sides of the banjo player's mouth. Fog was hanging low as the sun began to show. The morning I left my home behind. I was feeling mighty down as I hit the edge of town, thinking about the job I had to find. There's no work here for me to do. I can't stand these handouts from you. But my thoughts began to yield as I saw across the field this girl with red hair raking hay. With one arm on the rake, she gave her back a break. Her hair was red as coals of fire. She wiped her freckled nose and she struck a handsome pose, the kind an artist would admire. I knew I must be on my way, but silently wished that I could stay to help when the hay was dried and work alongside this girl with red hair raking hay. The last day I was home was the first day I did roam, and I have never been the same. I wondered if I'd find the red-haired girl on my mind. I never even knew her name. I found some work and earned my pay, stored it all away for a sunny day. Dreamed about the time when I could make that girl mine, that girl with red hair raking hay. Several summers passed, several fields of grass had grown and were mown into hay. The day that I returned, I wanted so to learn what had changed while I was away. I summoned up every bit of nerve as I rounded that hayfield curve. There was my wife-to-be singing, "You've come back to me, your girl with red hair raking hay." So I get to sing for all ages, retirement homes and elder hostels, kindergarten groups. I work with 3rd and 4th graders doing songwriting. The last year I was working with 8th graders in their language arts class. So it wasn't music, but these kids were studying poetry, and the teacher had given them a couple of in preparation for my visit, the teacher had given them a couple of my songs, but they only saw the lyrics and they were supposed to look at them as poems. and then I show up and sing them and talk about writing. And when it was time for questions, one fourth grade boy said, "Mr. Berggren, does your wife have red hair? Because if she doesn't, I'll bet she's really pissed." So here's a new song I haven't, I think I've let it out of the house once. It just gives you a picture of what Adirondack winters are like. And there are some former audio and radio students here, aren't there? When I cue you, could you give me a wind sound? Oh, perfect. All right. I'm not going to be able to cue you because I'll be playing, but you'll hear the right spot to come in with that, all right? It's winter here in the mountains, when the snow begins to drift. The hairs in your nose are constantly froze, so they whistle whenever you sniff. One winter here in the North Woods, my granddad told me to learn this. Push your house down the road or have it towed. That's how you jumpstart a furnace. Blow, blow, Adirondack winds, blow, ye winter winds, blow. The temperature drops and the wind never stops. Blow, Adirondack winds, blow. Blow, Adirondack winds, blow. Oh, how I love these mountains when the north wind begins to blow. At 90 miles an hour and you just lost power, but it's only 40 below. I used up all of my firewood, burned up some tables and boards, then tossed in my banjo, chopped up the piano, but it only gave me 2 chords. Blow, blow, Adirondack winds, blow, ye winter winds, blow. The temperature drops and the wind never stops. Blow, Adirondack winds, blow. Blow, Adirondack winds, blow. I offered my darling a diamond, but her answer froze in midair. So it wasn't until May that I heard her say she'd rather have long underwear. Weather around here can be wicked, but I guess we'll be sticking around. You might not believe it, no, we'd never leave it. We're frozen here, stuck to the ground. Blow, blow, Adirondack winds, blow, ye winter winds, blow. The temperature drops and the wind never stops. Blow, Adirondack winds, blow. Blow, Adirondack winds, blow. Thank you. I wanted to mention a few of them. Communication faculty that I've worked with who are no longer with us, passed on: Ann Carden and Kay McDonough, Kurt Lewison, and John Malcolm, and two administrators, 2 deans who helped the communication media program grow, become stable, grow again. One was the very first dean that I worked with, Jerry Supple, banjo playing Jerry Supple, the chemistry professor who became Dean, and then went off to Plattsburgh and then to Texas. And Will Rocket, who came to this campus for working after having worked with CBC Toronto. And he loved radio, and he loved WCVF, Fredonia Radio Systems, and he did everything he could to help us along the way. Past few years I've been writing songs that talk about climate change, and no, that is not fake news. I believe the very first song that addressed climate change may have been Tiny Tim. You know, on his first album, the album that had Tiptoe Through the Tulips, there was this song, and when I was in the Army, I had a friend from Virginia, and every time he was in his cups, he would start singing, "The icebergs are melting, whoa, ho, 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 ho. The whole world is drowning, whoa, ho, 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 ho. The icebergs are melting, the tide is rushing in, all the world is drowning to wash away our sin." And I said, "Is that a gospel song? Do you learn that in church?" And he said, "No, that was on Tiny Tim's first album." Oh, see the land, the beautiful land that was farmed by hand. Now it's machines and modified genes. Where is the beautiful land? Oh, see the floods, the terrible floods, filling homes with mud. Who will pay when they're washed away? Beware the terrible floods. It's the tip of the iceberg. We don't see what doesn't show. Our daughters and sons will be the ones who will know what lies below if the iceberg melts away. Oh, see the stream, once beautiful stream. We used to fish and dream. What once was pure is now a sewer. Where is the beautiful stream? It's the tip of the iceberg. We don't see what doesn't show. Our daughters and sons will be the ones who will know what lies below if the iceberg melts away. Climate change is no surprise. The evidence is right before our eyes. Heed science, not profit-making lies. And above this we will rise. Oh, see the droughts, the terrible droughts. We can't live without. Life is tough when there's not enough. Beware the terrible droughts. It's the tip of the iceberg. We don't see what doesn't show. Our daughters and sons will be the ones who will know what lies below if the iceberg melts away. Granddaughters and sons will be the ones who will know what lies below. Don't let the iceberg melt away. So, playing music with my granddaughters, and the older one asked, how do you write songs? Where do they come from? And I gave her a tip from Woody Guthrie. He believed if you used a tune that people already knew, you were halfway there to getting them to sing with you. And that's what he did with This Land Is Your Land. The tune is a Southern gospel song. And if you go to YouTube and type in, "What You Gonna Do When the World's on Fire?" which is a scary as hell title. What You Gonna Do When the World's on Fire? You will hear the most gorgeous 1930s gospel quartet singing that song. And so he borrowed that melody and put his own words to it. So I said, you are my sunshine, my only sunshine. You make me happy when skies are gray. You'll never know, dear, how much I love you. Please don't take my sunshine away. So I said, all we need is another two-syllable word, and we'll substitute it for sunshine. You are my planet, my only planet, and there is nowhere else to roam. With your resources and natural forces, you are my planet, my one and only home. When I think about the future and generations yet to come, I will respect you and protect you. I know my work on earth has just begun. You are my planet. You are my planet, my only planet. And there is nowhere else to roam. With your resources and natural forces, you are my planet, my one and only home. So stick that in your back pocket, and the next time you feel creative, just think of a two-syllable word that you can substitute for sunshine. I wrote this next song for my daughter, but tonight I sing it for all of my former students. There's a picture in my head, an image from the past, a child made of fragile flesh and bone, with ears, eyes, and mind kept open wide. You learn to make it on your own. I'm proud of you, so proud of you. I may be late in saying it, but it's true. I'm proud of you, always been proud of you, and it's time I said it out loud. I'm proud. Compassion, hard work, self-discipline, and love, defining lines of right and wrong, respect for every part in the web of life. That's how you became strong. I'm proud of you, so proud of you. I may be late in saying it, but it's true. I'm proud of you, always been proud of you, and it's time I said it out loud. I'm proud. Your compass is true. You steer a steady course while the sea goes from calm to wild. Companion at your side, new adventures abound. Now you're parent to the child. I'm proud of you, so proud of you. I may be late in saying it, but it's true. I'm proud of you, always been proud of you, and it's time I said it out loud. I'm proud. couple of weeks, Bill Staines will be here. I hope you'll come out to see him. Have many of you seen him before? Heard him? You may not know his name, but I'll bet you know one of his most famous songs. All God's critters got a place in the choir. Some sing low, some sing high. That song precedes him all over the country. I get to sing at this wonderful outdoor venue in Inlet, New York, called Arrowhead Park, and I'm always 1 week ahead of Bill Staines or 1 week after him. And the last time I got to have a conversation with him was when he was here at the Unicorn many years ago. And I said to him, I noticed you have your own record label. He said, yeah, I decided that's how I would start. I said, do you recommend it? He said, well, if you've got the fortitude for it. And since I was not a touring musician, I was a professor who sang on the occasional weekend, and in the summer, no folk label was interested in putting out an album of my stuff. So I took Bill's advice and started my own label. Well, to get back to this venue in Inlet, New York, where I just missed Bill Staines, a woman came up to me. She was in her mid-70s, and she said, would you sing that song, Proud of You? And I said, sure, I'll be happy to. Can you tell me why? She said, my husband just loves that song. You see, his dad never said that to him. He was a man in his late 70s, and I watched him while I was singing it. He was belting out on the chorus with tears streaming down his face. I wrote this on the New York State Thruway between the Adirondacks and here, and it became a gift for my wife because she made me a sweater and I don't know how to knit, so I gave her this. Somebody made this old sweater from 6 or 7 big green balls of yarn. Look how it surrounds me, how it wraps around me, just like being hugged by loving arms. I don't know the name of the farmer. I don't suppose that I ever will. No, I never met him, but I can't forget him. He's the one who raised the sheep and sheared the wool. You know I love my old green sweater. I've worn it for years and it feels good as new. There's just one thing that warms me better, that's your love, that's you. Somebody made this old sweater. You can tell that it wasn't by machine, 'cause every stitch of every row was knitted nice and slow from some wool that was dyed so dark and green. Who took time to clean the fleece and then to card it? I don't suppose that I'll ever know. And who did all the spinning? That was only the beginning, before love was knitted into every row. Try it. You know I love my old green sweater. I've worn it for years and it feels good as new. There's just one thing that warms me better, that's your love, that's you. Some folks have drawers just jammed with sweaters, while other folks have none to keep them warm. Well, I have one that's got your touch, and that's why it means so much. And I'll wear it when it's mended or it's torn. Somebody made this old sweater. 6 or 7 big green balls of yarn. Look how it surrounds me, how it wraps around me, just like being hugged by loving arms. You know I love my old green sweater. I've worn it for years and it feels good as new. There's just one thing that warms me better, that's your love. That's you. That's the love that made the sweater. That's you. So here's the other side of love. I've got boxes of junk in the basement. You like to throw things away. The desk is so cluttered, the top you can't see, but still you put up with me. I may roar when I'm losing my temper. I snore when I'm lying asleep. I talk on the phone while you're watching TV, and still you put up with me. Still you put up with me. Still you put up with me. Sometimes we fight when I don't do things right. Still you put up with me. I use too much Tabasco when cooking. I dish out too much pie and ice cream. I pour myself coffee but don't bring you tea, and still you put up with me. Still you put up with me. Still you put up with me. Sometimes we fight when I don't do things right. Still you put up with me. I leave clothes on the floor of the closet, wet towels on the back of the chair, and sometimes I leave the seat up. That doesn't mean I don't care. Living with me ain't no picnic. It's not easy to put up with me. Who knows why we do all the things that we do? Remember I put up with you. Remember I put up with you, dear. Remember I put up with you. Sometimes you're wrong, but that's a whole other song. Remember I put up with you. Well, we're getting close to the end here, and you get to take a big stretch, and if you'd like, on your way out, take one of my CDs home. I have a guarantee. I learned this guarantee from Dan Berggren. If you take one of my CDs home and you find after playing it that you don't like it, mail it back to me, and I will send you a CD that I don't like. In an interview once, a student asked me how I got involved in sound, and I remembered my brother-in-law had a reel-to-reel tape recorder he let me play with, and my brother got one, and then I got one for my 16th birthday, and just fun to pay attention to sound, manipulate sound. But then I remembered when I was 14, my uncle Van took me out into the woods. He was a hunter safety training instructor. And he was trying to teach me, a teenager, how to be still, stay in one spot, not make noise so that I might see wildlife. And I was running here and there and looking all over the place. He said, Danny, you gotta stand in one spot. Now, stay there. Now, close your eyes, listen. What do you hear? I said, I don't hear anything. We're in the woods, I don't hear. No, just be quiet. After a little while, I noticed this rustling behind me, and I said, well, it sounds like a tree. He said, well, what kind of tree? I said, I got my eyes closed, I don't know. He says, listen, you hear that? That low sound, like a bass, That's because it's a white pine, and white pines have needles like that. And compared to a spruce or a balsam with the short needles, they make a completely different sound. Or take a birch with its little leaf compared to a big floppy maple leaf. And then they sound different. And then in the fall, when the leaves get crisp, they have a totally different sound. And then in the winter, all the leaves are gone. The only thing left to vibrate are the branches. And that's when you notice the howling of the wind. So I never became a hunter, but his lesson about listening has served me all my life as a songwriter, as someone who went into audio and radio for a career, and just to appreciate life a little bit more. So here's a nod to my uncle, Van. Birch are soprano, balsam or alto, cedar sing tenor, with white pine on bass. Birds take the solos, the duets and trios, the wind is conducting to vary the pace. Rhythmic cicada with river polyphony, woodpecker counterpoint drumming along. 3 moons per season, 4 movements a year, from morning to evening, a never-ending song. From morning to evening, a never-ending song. Try humming that. Birch are soprano, balsam or alto, cedar sing tenor, with white pine on bass. Birds take the solos, the duets and trios, the wind is conducting to vary the pace. Rhythmic cicada with river polyphony, woodpecker counterpoint drumming along. 3 moons per season, 4 movements a year, from morning to evening, a never-ending song. From morning to evening, a never-ending song. With each word that I speak, every answer that I seek, whether I am strong or weak, when I occupy this moment, I occupy this world. Every stumble toward the goal builds the body, mind, and soul. I am part of the whole. When I occupy this moment, I occupy this world. Try that. When I occupy this moment, I occupy this world. With each step that you take, every second you're awake, lessons learned from mistakes. When you occupy this moment, you occupy this world. Every journey, short or long, with each right that trumps a wrong, you can feel you belong. When you occupy this moment, you occupy this world. With each breath until we die, every question asking why, and each challenge that we try. When we occupy this moment, we occupy this world. Every gift that we bring, each idea that takes wing, every song that we sing. When we occupy this moment, we occupy this world. Every stumble toward the goal builds the body, mind, and soul. I am part of the whole. When I occupy this moment, I occupy this world. When you occupy this moment, you occupy this world. When we occupy this moment, we occupy this world. Thank you. Here's a toast to the Opera House. All the people who helped tonight. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Patty Feraldi. Thank you, Betty Gossett. Thank you, all the volunteers who come here for all the events and usher. I'll leave you with a song that looks toward fall, maybe winter. I don't know the next time I'll see you all, but thanks for coming out tonight and supporting the year's scholarship. When the leaves are off the trees, honey from the bees sweetens up your morning cup of tea. You watch it steam arise like the fog into the skies. Grab your hat and coat and walk with me. Mountain air blows away all the cares that build up day to day, and it lifts your spirit high, makes you want to give it one more try. You see that brook run by? Last summer it was dry, and the deer went somewhere else to drink. Well, our lives are running by with lots of questions why. Sometimes we have no time to think. Mountain air blows away all the cares that build up day to day, and it lifts your spirit high, makes you want to give it one more try. When you add up all you make, then subtract what the bills will take, wonder how you'll ever make it through. Maybe move and get more pay. Is there a reason to stay? Just step outside and let the answer find you. Mountain air blows away all the cares that build up day to day, and it lifts your spirit high, makes you want to give it one more try. It's like the doctor ordered pills when you take off for the hills and go looking for whatever you find. Walk along at your own pace, not a part of any rat race. It's a remedy that helps to clear the mind. Mountain air blows away all the cares build up day to day, and it lifts your spirit high, makes you want to give it one more try. When the leaves are off the trees, the honey from the bees sweetens up your morning cup of tea. You watch it steam arise like the fog into the skies. Grab your hat and coat and walk with me.